Good morning, everybody. Me and my pal Gilly here, about to start our day. Thought I'd talk about a civil case I had a little experience with just recently. When a case comes into our office, a civil case, and we assess it, the first thing we do is decide whether or not we're going to take the case. We do that by assessing the negligence on a civil case, on a personal injury case, to see if there's negligence by the party against our potential client. And then we see if our client had any role in the accident or event occurring that caused the injury to the client. We want to know the extent of the injury to a client. And then obviously we want to know whether or not there's a method of collection. Should we sue somebody or file a lawsuit or make a claim, that there's some insurance policy or pocket that could pay a reasonable amount for the damage the client suffered. And you kind of need to have all three. You need to have the liability issue, the negligence. You need to have the injury that is significant enough to warrant a lawsuit, and you need to have, once again, the deep pockets to get money out of, or at least some pockets to get money out of. So we did that on a case, and it was a case where our client was crossing a road and was hit by a car, and it was questionable whether or not our client was liable or not. And when he was hit by this car, unfortunately, he died, and so we represented his estate or his wife's claim. And in doing all our due diligence and things of that nature, we determined that the car that hit him was traveling at a higher rate of speed than it should have been for the road, which meant that there was some liability for the driver. And because the injuries were so severe, death, the only question was there a policy or something in place that would allow us to collect? Well, it took a while, but we eventually found out that there was a significant policy that we could collect from. Gilly is seeing a friend of ours walk by. That's why she's all excited. And so we pursued the lawsuit. And because of the workup we did on the speed of the vehicle, and because of the workup we did as to why our client may have not been at fault for the accident, the insurance company wanted to settle, and of course they had to settle for the full policy because there was a death involved. The point being in all this is that every lawsuit needs to be evaluated thoroughly. You never know when they first come in whether or not that the case is viable or not in most cases. And what we pride ourselves on doing, and what law firms should pride themselves on doing, is doing that due diligence early in the case to determine whether or not there's actually a case there to proceed with. In this case, it worked out really well for our client's favor, and we were pleased to help them in such a tragic circumstance. In other cases, however, it hasn't worked out so well. Anyway, that's the civil little tidbit I wanted to share with you this morning, and Gilly was interested in sharing, so we'll say goodbye and have a great day today. Bye.